Cleo takes over the upper floor. A cat, 10 rooms, and final proof that humans require supervision. Chapter 1. The Stairway to Responsibility. An organizational emergency. There comes a moment in every cat's life when she realizes that her area of responsibility is larger than previously assumed. Mine came on a Saturday morning when Anna carried 3 empty boxes upstairs and announced, "Today, we're finally getting this floor organized." A devastating admission. Apparently, no one had been maintaining order up there. I was lying in the living room at the time, occupied with an important patch of sunlight. Sunlight requires supervision. Left unattended, it moves across the floor and eventually disappears beneath the sofa. Humans accept this as a natural phenomenon. I consider it poor planning. Anna returned carrying labels, 2 rolls of refuse bags, and a clipboard. She had the expression she usually wore before attempting to control events that had long since escaped her. "Everyone, 10 minutes," she called, "then we start." Daniel appeared in the doorway with a mug of coffee and the cautious look of a man who had just heard a distant explosion. "Start what?" "The upstairs clean-out." "Today?" "We agreed on today." Daniel took a thoughtful sip. Humans often drink when they need time to invent a convincing memory. "Of course," he said. "I just thought we meant a general sort of today." Anna stared at him. He studied the ceiling, perhaps hoping to be lifted through it by a merciful force. Mia came down the stairs without looking up from her phone. Her thumbs moved at remarkable speed, although the rest of her showed no sign of life. "I can't," she said. "You don't know what I'm asking yet," Anna replied. "I have schoolwork." It's Saturday. School continues to exist on Saturdays. This was technically true, though I had never seen Mia voluntarily acknowledge that fact before noon. Ben arrived next, carrying a desk lamp, 1 roller skate, a cardboard tube, and a red cushion. "I'm helping," he announced. No one asked where the objects had come from or where they were going. This was a mistake. Ben's idea of tidying consisted of moving things until every room looked surprised. He placed the lamp in the hallway, put the roller skate inside one of Anna's empty boxes, balanced the tube against the wall, and carried the cushion upstairs. Anna closed her eyes briefly. "Right," she said. "We're going to sort everything into 4 categories: keep, donate, recycle, and throw away." Daniel frowned. "What about things we might need?" "That's keep." "What about things we might need one day but not now?" "Also keep." "And things we've forgotten we own but might be useful if we remember." Anna looked at him in silence. I understood then that the operation was already in danger. Humans love categories because categories give them the comforting illusion that the world has agreed to cooperate. Cats use a simpler system. There are things to eat, things to sleep on, things to knock down, and things that have not yet revealed their purpose. This system has never failed. I rose, stretched each leg with the precision of a dancer accepting applause, and walked toward the staircase. Until that morning, the upper floor had existed in my mind as a loosely governed northern territory. I had visited, naturally, but only for specific assignments: waking Mia, checking Ben's bed for structural warmth, or sitting outside a closed bathroom door to remind the occupant that privacy is an antisocial habit. The ground floor was my principal domain. It contained the kitchen, 3 reliable windows, the warm spot beside the radiator, and the cupboard where food appeared through methods the family insisted were unrelated to my vocal instructions. But Anna's announcement changed everything. If the upper floor required boxes, labels, schedules, and Daniel's reluctant presence, then the situation was clearly worse than anyone had admitted. I could no longer regard it as a secondary territory. I placed one paw on the first step. Staircases are among humanity's more revealing inventions. They divide a simple change in height into a long sequence of identical obstacles, then require people to encounter each obstacle separately. A cat can cross 4 steps in a single bound. A human climbs them one by one, often breathing heavily while carrying objects that should have been pushed off a shelf months ago. Halfway up, I paused and looked back. Daniel was still in the hall. "I'll just finish my coffee," he said. "You can bring it," Anna replied. "I don't want it to get cold." "Then drink it upstairs." He glanced at me, seeking support. I continued upward. Leadership sometimes requires refusing to become involved in hopeless cases. At the top of the stairs, the scale of the crisis became visible. 2 boxes blocked the hallway. A laundry basket leaned against the wall. Several books lay on the floor beside a screwdriver, a sock, and a small plastic dinosaur. None of these objects appeared connected, which meant Daniel or Ben had almost certainly been involved. Doors opened and closed. Anna issued instructions from 3 locations in quick succession. Mia protested that her room was not actually messy. Ben carried the same red cushion past me in the opposite direction. "Where does that belong?" Anna asked. "I'm testing different places." "For what?" Ben considered this. "Belonging." Of all the humans, Ben possesses the most natural intelligence. I stepped into the center of the hall and raised my tail. The official expansion of my territory required no ceremony. There was no need for documents, declarations, or one of Anna's labels. Authority does not come from paperwork. It comes from standing in the exact place everyone else needs to pass. Within seconds, the household had formed a respectful queue around me. "Cleo, move please," Anna said. I remained where I was. Daniel approached with another box. "She's supervising. At least someone is," Mia muttered. "A sensible child." Then I heard it. A faint scrape came from above me. I looked up. The humans continued talking. Scrape, pause, scrape, scrape. It came from somewhere beyond the ceiling, light but deliberate, as though a small object or creature were testing the boundaries of my house. My ears turned forward. "Did you hear that?" Anna asked. Daniel stopped. For one promising second, I believed the family had detected the threat. "Hear what?" "That noise." We waited. "Nothing. Probably the pipes," Daniel said. Humans blame pipes for anything they cannot explain. Knocking, humming, dripping, financial decisions, the pipes are expected to bear it all. "There aren't any pipes up there," Anna said. "Then it's the house settling." The house had been standing for more than 20 years. If it had not settled by now, stronger measures were required. Ben looked toward the ceiling. "Maybe there's an animal in the attic." Mia lowered her phone at last. "What kind of animal?" "A rat." "There is not a rat in the attic," Anna said with the speed of someone who urgently needed that statement to be true. "Could be a ghost," Ben suggested. "That's better," Mia said. The scraping came again, farther along the ceiling this time. I moved beneath it. Whatever occupied the space above us was mobile, possibly small, possibly clever, almost certainly unaware that the property already had a supreme predator. Anna clapped her hands. "All right, we're not getting distracted. Office first, then bedrooms, then the bathroom." The attic can wait. The attic could not wait. Still, an investigation requires patience. One does not charge blindly into unknown territory, particularly when access to that territory depends on humans opening a door. For all their faults, thumbs occasionally make them useful. I followed the sound down the hallway. It faded near the room Daniel called his office, though I had rarely observed him producing anything there except frustration. The door stood half open. Beyond it waited cables, papers, blinking lights, and the faint electronic hum of machines, pretending to be essential. Daniel hurried past me. "I'll start in here," he said, far too eagerly. "Lots to organize." Anna narrowed her eyes. "You have a video meeting in 5 minutes, don't you?" Daniel stopped. "No." His computer chimed. He looked at it, then at Anna. "It's more of a brief professional exchange." I entered the office ahead of him. The upper floor was disordered, inadequately defended, and possibly occupied by an unidentified intruder. Meanwhile, Daniel was about to speak with a collection of glowing rectangles while searching for a cable he had misplaced. My priorities were now clear. First, I would inspect the office. Then I would investigate the sound above the ceiling. And finally, when the evidence was complete, I would decide how much of this catastrophe the humans were emotionally prepared to understand. Chapter 2: The Office. where humans sit to become tired. The office contained 2 desks, 3 screens, 7 piles of paper, and enough cable to restrain a medium-sized horse. Daniel called this a workspace. I called it evidence. Humans have developed an impressive method of labor. They sit perfectly still for hours, stare into illuminated rectangles, and become steadily more exhausted. At regular intervals, they announce that they have been running all day, although no running has occurred. Occasionally, they move a number from one column to another and reward themselves with coffee. Cats achieve the same degree of concentration while watching a fly, but with fewer passwords. Daniel lowered himself into his chair and woke the largest screen. Several small faces appeared in neat boxes. They all looked as though they had been caught unexpectedly inside cupboards. "Morning, everyone," Daniel said, adjusting his shirt collar. His voice had changed. It was deeper, calmer, and almost entirely unlike the one he used when the printer refused to cooperate. "Morning, Daniel. Can everyone hear me?" "Yes, loud and clear. You're still muted, Martin." Martin continued speaking silently for several seconds. The others watched with professional concern. I jumped onto the desk. Daniel placed one hand in front of me without looking away from the screen. It was a weak defensive gesture, lacking both strategy and conviction. I stepped over it. "We keep this brief," said a woman in the top left box. I thought we could use the time to align on next steps before scheduling a more detailed discussion. The other heads nodded. This appeared to be the human version of circling a cushion 3 times before lying down, except no one ever lay down. Daniel reached for a folder. I sat on it. "Cleo," he whispered. I looked at him. "Not now. Closed doors are provocations. Not now is merely a closed door made of words." I crossed the keyboard. The presentation vanished. In its place appeared Daniel's desktop, displaying a photograph of a mountain he had never climbed and 14 small symbols demanding his attention. One of the boxed heads stopped speaking. "Daniel?" "Yes. I think we've lost the slides." Daniel pressed several keys. Nothing useful happened. "I'm just bringing them back." I pressed another key with my hind paw. The screen changed again. This time my own face filled the meeting. There was a pause. "Is that Cleo?" someone asked. "Hello, Cleo. Oh, she's gorgeous." "Wait, don't move her. My daughter loves cats." At last, a group capable of recognizing leadership. I moved closer to the camera, allowing them a clear view of my whiskers. Effective authority depends on presence. Daniel tried to slide one arm beneath me, while continuing to smile at his colleagues. "She likes to be involved," he said. This was inaccurate. I did not like to be involved. The distinction matters. "Perhaps Cleo can talk us through the quarterly figures," said Martin, who had finally located his voice. Several people laughed. Daniel lifted me. I extended all 4 legs and caught one paw on the edge of the folder. The folder opened. Papers slid across the desk and drifted to the floor with the graceful inevitability of autumn leaves. "Everything under control," Daniel said. The phrase is popular among humans at precisely the moments when it is least convincing. He placed me beside the printer. This was a tactical error. The printer had always interested me. It spent most of its life silent and dormant, then suddenly awakened to swallow paper and produce different paper. Humans trusted it despite repeated betrayals. No cat would retain such a creature in a position of responsibility. Daniel found his presentation and resumed speaking. "As you can see from the revised timeline." The printer clicked. I turned. It hummed, shuddered, and drew in a sheet. My body lowered instinctively. A moment later, the edge of the paper emerged. I struck it. The printer pulled it back. I struck again. "Cleo," Daniel warned without turning around. The machine made a grinding sound and released half a page bearing a blue graph and several punctures of scientific interest. "Not again," Daniel said. Every face on the screen was now watching me instead of the revised timeline. The printer attempted to produce a second sheet. I intercepted it before it could fully escape. Daniel reached for the paper. I held it firmly. For a brief but meaningful period, 3 forces competed for control. Daniel, The printer and me, only one of us had claws. The page tore. The printer beeped in surrender. Someone in the meeting applauded. "That was excellent," the woman in the top left box said. "We should have a cat break every week." "I'll put it on the agenda," Daniel replied. He laughed, though I could see a faint redness climbing toward his ears. Daniel uses humor the way other people use umbrellas. It does not stop the storm, but it gives him something to hold. The meeting ended 12 minutes later with an agreement to arrange another meeting. The participants disappeared one by one, leaving Daniel alone with his mountain, his damaged graph, and me. He leaned back. "Well," he said, "that could have gone worse." The printer beeped again. Daniel looked at it. He speaks to machines as though they can be corrected by disappointment. Across the room, Anna sat at the second desk. During the entire diplomatic incident, she had continued sorting receipts, answering messages, and adding items to a list headed Weekend Plan. Beneath it was another list titled Office. Beside that lay a yellow note reminding her to review the first list. "You missed the cat presentation," Daniel said. "I saw it. You didn't laugh. I was on a call. You weren't talking. I was listening." Anna rubbed the space between her eyes, then returned to her papers. Her coffee stood untouched beside the keyboard. It had stopped producing steam some time ago. "You should take a break," Daniel said. "I will when I finish this." Humans frequently postpone rest until after everything is complete. This explains why they are always tired. Everything has never been complete in the history of houses. Anna opened a folder and pulled out several pages covered in notes. I crossed the room, stepped onto the desk, and lowered myself directly onto them. "Cleo, sweetheart, I need those." I closed my eyes. She touched the edge of one page and tried to slide it free. I adjusted my weight. "Of course," she murmured. "The one folder I'm actually using." She could have chosen any other folder. Humans make poor decisions, and then blame the nearest cat. Anna reached for her phone instead. I stretched one foreleg across it. She stared at me. I began to purr. This was not affection. It was a medically calibrated vibration designed to reduce unnecessary activity. Daniel smiled. "I think you've been overruled. By 4 kilos of fur. Senior management." Anna sighed, but her hand settled on my back. For several minutes she did nothing. At first, her fingers continued to move as if counting invisible tasks. Then they became still. The office changed with her. The keyboards fell silent, the screens continued glowing, but no one obeyed them. Outside the window, a branch moved gently in the wind. Anna's shoulders lowered. "There," Daniel said. "A break. I'm trapped. Same thing sometimes." She scratched beneath my chin with acceptable accuracy. Above us, something scraped faintly across the ceiling. My eyes opened. The sound lasted only a second, but it was clearer now. A dry, irregular movement from somewhere beyond the plaster. The unknown presence remained active. Before I could reposition myself for closer analysis, a low mechanical hum approached from the hallway. It rolled nearer, steady and self-important. Daniel glanced toward the door. The robot started. Robot. The word alone was suspicious. I jumped down and walked out of the office, leaving Anna with no choice but to remain seated for at least another 10 seconds. My intervention had been successful. In the middle of the hallway, a flat black machine advanced, without eyes, manners, or visible fear. It crossed directly into my territory. I lowered my head. Chapter 3. The Revolt of the Machines. A question of authority. The machine kept coming. It was round, black, and low to the ground, like a dinner plate that had abandoned the table to pursue a military career. A small blue light glowed on its back. Beneath it, rotating brushes swept dust into an unseen mouth. It had no eyes, no ears, and no tail. Nevertheless, it moved with confidence. I stood in the center of the hallway and waited for it to recognize the established chain of command. It did not. At the last moment, the machine altered course and passed around me, brushing the tip of my whiskers with an air of mechanical indifference. This was not an oversight. This was insubordination. Daniel appeared in the office doorway. Cleo, meet Herbert. I looked at him. You named the vacuum cleaner? Anna asked from behind him. It needed a name for the app. No, it needed access to the wireless network. Exactly. That felt too intimate without introductions. Herbert turned toward the wall and struck the skirting board with a soft bump. He reversed, rotated in place, and tried again at a slightly different angle. Daniel watched proudly. He maps the whole floor. He's attacking the wall, Anna said. He's learning. Humans use the word learning generously when discussing expensive objects. If Ben walked repeatedly into a wall, they would not praise his mapping ability. I followed at a safe distance. A scientific investigation begins with observation. Herbert crossed the hallway in irregular lines, disappearing beneath a console table and emerging with a fragment of paper attached to one brush. He consumed dust, hair, crumbs, and whatever dignity Daniel had invested in him. Then he approached my water bowl. I stepped between them. Herbert continued forward. I lifted one paw. The machine touched it with its plastic shell. I struck. Herbert turned away. A preliminary victory, though not yet conclusive. See, Daniel said, she likes him. Anna folded her arms. That looked more like a formal warning. Anna occasionally shows promise. Ben came running from his room, carrying a toy mouse by its tail. Is Cleo going to ride him? No, Anna said. Yes, Daniel said at the same time. I stared at both of them. Cats ride robot vacuums on the internet, Ben explained. Mia leaned out of her doorway, phone already raised. Millions of views. There are few phrases more dangerous than on the internet. Humans hear that something has happened there and immediately lose the ability to ask whether it should happen anywhere else. Ben placed the toy mouse in Herbert's path. The machine reached it, pushed it forward, then rolled over its tail. The mouse spun beneath the brushes and vanished halfway under the vacuum. Ben gasped. Herbert stopped and beeped. I approached slowly. The mouse's head protruded from beneath the machine, its expression unchanged, despite the humiliation. I hooked one claw into its fabric ear and pulled. Herbert resisted briefly, then released his captive. The rescue was clean and efficient. Ben scooped up the mouse. Cleo saved him, naturally. Daniel crouched beside Herbert. It's just tangled. He turned the machine over and began removing fur from its brushes. Most of it was mine. I took this as proof that Herbert had been collecting samples without authorization. We should put Cleo on top when it starts again, Ben said. She could be queen of the upstairs. I am already queen of the upstairs, I informed him with a look. Unfortunately, Ben interpreted this as interest. He patted Herbert's smooth surface. It's like a royal carriage. Royal carriages do not eat dust. They also tend to have horses, doors, and some understanding of ceremony. Daniel set Herbert upright and pressed up. The machine chimed cheerfully, having learned nothing from its defeat. Let her decide, Anna said. At last, a sensible policy. I turned away and jumped onto one of the boxes beside the wall. From there, I could monitor the intruder while remaining above the level of its brushes. This was not caution. Predators naturally prefer superior terrain. Ben rolled a small ball across the hallway. The ball bounced against the box. I shifted to avoid it. The cardboard flap beneath my hind paws folded inward. For one fraction of a second, I was suspended between dignity and gravity. Gravity proved faster. I landed squarely on Herbert. The machine paused. So did everyone else. Then Herbert moved. Cleo's riding it, Ben shouted. Mia began filming. Daniel laughed. Anna covered her mouth, which meant she was also laughing, but wished to preserve the appearance of responsible adulthood. I remained perfectly still. Leaping off immediately would have suggested alarm. Staying aboard transformed the incident into a deliberate inspection of mobile equipment. Herbert carried me down the hallway. His surface vibrated beneath my paws. This was unpleasant, but not entirely without practical value. From my elevated position, I could survey the floor while expending no energy. Humans often claim to invent machines for precisely this purpose, although their machines usually require updates, passwords, and half an afternoon of shouting. "Look at her face," Mia said. "She loves it," Ben replied. I did not love it. My expression communicated the solemn burden of leadership. It was not my fault that humans struggle to distinguish authority from resentment. Herbert turned left. I adjusted my balance. He turned right. I lowered my body and widened my stance. The family followed behind us like attendants in a poorly organized procession. "Your Majesty," Daniel said, bowing. I made a note to deal with him later. For several meters, the journey proceeded with tolerable stability. Then Herbert approached a laundry basket blocking part of the passage. He detected it, turned sharply, and drove toward Mia's room. The door was almost closed. A gray sleeve lay across the threshold, attached to a sweatshirt that appeared to have attempted an escape. Herbert seized it. The sleeve disappeared beneath its front edge. The sweatshirt tightened, slid across the floor, and struck the door. Herbert continued pulling with the determination of a predator too stupid to understand the size of its prey. The door swung inward. I jumped clear, landing neatly beside the wall. Herbert dragged half the sweatshirt into Mia's room, beeped twice, and stopped. Silence followed. Then a calm electronic voice announced, "Main brush blocked." "Obviously," Mia said. "That was my favorite hoodie." "If it was your favorite," Anna replied, "why was it on the floor?" "So I'd know where it was." I understood it perfectly. Daniel knelt beside the disabled machine. "It's fine, I can fix this." He pulled the sleeve. Herbert held on. He pulled harder. The sweatshirt came free so suddenly that Daniel sat down on the floor. Ben laughed. Mia rescued her hoodie. Anna shook her head with the weary satisfaction of someone whose opinion about a machine had just been confirmed. I walked around Herbert once. The blue light blinked weakly. One brush remained motionless, wrapped in a long thread. The invader had entered my territory, ignored my warning, stolen a mouse, collected my fur, abducted a garment, and finally immobilized itself. Artificial intelligence had encountered laundry. Natural intelligence remained undefeated. Daniel pressed the button again. Herbert beeped but did not move. "Maybe we should clean manually," Anna said. "Let's not overreact. There lies the central problem with human inventions. People create machines to save time, then spend the saved time maintaining, charging, updating, untangling, and defending them. Any remaining minutes are used to research a newer machine that promises to save even more. A cat saves time by not doing unnecessary things in the first place." I stepped over the defeated robot and entered Mia's room. Behind me, Daniel began explaining that Herbert's failure was caused by environmental conditions. Mia protested the treatment of her clothes. Ben asked whether the next model might be large enough for 2 cats. No one noticed the faint scrape above the ceiling. I did. It came from farther along the upper floor now, beyond the hallway, breathed and dry as claws against wood. I looked up, but the sound had already stopped. Then Mia's door swung wider, revealing a landscape of clothes, lights, cushions, cosmetics, books, and glowing screens. "Cleo, don't," Mia said. An interesting instruction considering she had just opened the door. I crossed the threshold. Behind me, Herbert remained silent in defeat. Ahead lay a room whose owner demanded absolute privacy while publishing photographs of her breakfast to strangers. Chapter 4. Mia's Room. The Glowing Oracle. Mia's room was a mixture of sleeping chamber, clothing archive, photographic studio, and archaeological site. She insisted that everything had its place. This was true. Its place was usually the floor. Clothes formed soft islands between the bed and the desk. Books leaned against mugs. A single sock hung from the back of a chair, at a height that suggested either deliberate decoration or a minor explosion. Along one wall, tiny lights glowed despite the morning sun, while several cushions occupied the bed in such numbers that there was barely room for a human. People place decorative cushions on beds every morning, remove them every evening, and repeat the process for years. Then they claim they do not have enough time. I walked to the center of the room and inspected the damage. "Don't step on that," Mia said. I looked down. Beneath my paw lay a sheet of paper covered in handwritten notes. "I need it for school." She lifted it, smoothed the corner, and placed it carefully on her desk beneath 2 bracelets, a hairbrush, and an empty glass. "There, organized." Mia began gathering clothes from the floor. She picked up a shirt, considered it, then placed it on the bed. She lifted a pair of trousers and transferred them to the chair. A sweater moved from the chair to the floor. Human tidying frequently consists of giving disorder a tour of the room. I jumped onto the windowsill. "Wait," Mia said. She reached for her phone. I turned away. "Cleo, look at me." I examined the street. Just one photo. Mia made a soft clicking noise with her tongue, as though I were an amateur bird. I continued observing a parked car of no strategic importance. "Cleo." She moved to the left. I moved my head to the right. She crouched. I sat down. She stood on tiptoe. I began washing one shoulder. "Why do you always do this?" An excellent question. The short answer was authority. The longer answer involved composition, consent, and Mia's persistent belief that owning a camera entitled her to cooperation. She opened a drawer and produced a small bag of treats. "Corruption. Look what I have." I looked. Mia raised the phone. I closed my eyes. "Oh, come on." She shook the bag. I opened one eye, but only enough to confirm that the payment remained available. "Sit nicely." I was sitting magnificently. Her inability to appreciate this was not my responsibility. Mia took several photographs. In the first, I was turning my head. In the second, my eyes were half closed. In the third, I had begun licking one hind leg. She studied the results with dismay. "You look weird in all of them." I looked exactly as intended. Mia adjusted the curtains, switched on a lamp, moved a plant, and cleared a small section of the windowsill. She then selected a pale blanket and arranged it behind me. "Humans call this spontaneity." "Okay," she said. "Natural light, clean background, no clutter." She glanced around the room. Mostly, no clutter. I stepped off the windowsill. "Cleo." She followed me to the bed. I jumped up among the cushions and turned my back to her. "Fine, I don't even want a picture anymore." Mia lowered the phone. At once I turned toward the window. The sunlight caught the pale fur beneath my chin. I placed my front paws together, raised my head, and allowed my tail to curve neatly around my body. It was an exceptional pose, elegant without effort, regal without excess, distant yet accessible. Mia stared. Very slowly she lifted the phone. I sneezed. The photograph captured one eye closed, my mouth open, and both ears pointing in different directions. Mia laughed so suddenly that she fell backward onto the cushions. For several moments she forgot to improve anything. "Actually, this is perfect." It was not perfect. It was evidence of betrayal. She typed rapidly. "What are you telling people?" I asked by placing one paw on her wrist. "Just that you're helping me clean." I looked at the room. Mia looked at the room. "Emotionally helping," she amended. She posted the photograph and watched the screen. Small symbols appeared beneath it almost immediately. Mia smiled. 23 likes already." I inspected the device. Nothing about it smelled edible, dangerous, or alive. Yet humans consulted these glowing rectangles with the seriousness once reserved for weather, fire, and approaching predators. Mia refreshed the screen. Another symbol appeared, then another. Apparently, people now informed one another that they approved of things by touching tiny pictures. This saved them the trouble of visiting, speaking, or making any useful contribution. Mia took a photograph of the untidy bed. "No," she murmured, deleting it. She moved a cup out of view and tried again. Then she photographed her hand holding a mug, although the mug was empty. She considered writing "Productive Saturday" before changing it to "Doing absolutely nothing." Humans regularly announce that they are doing nothing while taking several minutes to document, edit, and distribute the event. I settled on the blanket. For a while, Mia moved around the room, sorting books and folding shirts. Every few minutes she checked her phone. At first, she smiled. Later, the smile disappeared. She sat beside me and opened a conversation. At the bottom of the screen was a message she had sent. Beneath it, a small word indicated that it had been seen. No reply followed. Mia refreshed the screen. Still nothing. She set the phone down, picked it up again, and read her own message as though the words might have changed while unattended. "Was that stupid?" she whispered. I glanced at the screen. The message contained no threats, no territorial claims, and no obvious request for food. Its importance was therefore difficult to assess. Mia typed a second message, deleted it, typed another, then locked the phone. 3 seconds later, she unlocked it again. Her shoulders had drawn inward. This was the trouble with human oracles. They delivered endless information, but no wisdom. A glowing symbol could make Mia happy. The absence of one could persuade her that she had said too much, wanted too much, or somehow become less valuable in the space between two messages. Cats do not make this mistake. We know our worth before entering a room. If others fail to recognize it, we sit on their possessions until they reconsider. Mia placed the phone beside her. "I'm ridiculous," she said. I stepped onto the device and lay down. "Cleo, seriously?" I adjusted my position until the screen was entirely covered. She tried to pull it free. I increased my weight. "You are unbelievably annoying." Her hand rested on my side. I began to purr. Not because she required comfort. That would imply sentimentality. I merely wished to demonstrate that silence could also vibrate. After a while, Mia stopped reaching for the phone. She leaned back against the wall and stroked the fur between my ears. "You don't care what anyone thinks, do you?" I cared deeply what people thought, provided they thought correctly. She smiled faintly. For several quiet minutes, there were no photographs, no messages, and no small symbols measuring anything. There was only Mia's hand on my back, the warmth of the blanket, and the sound of our breathing. Then a tremendous crash came from Ben's room. Mia jumped. I was already on my feet. What was that? A second noise followed, a hollow thump, a metallic jingle, and Ben saying, "It's fine." Nothing is ever fine when a human announces it before being asked. I leaped from the bed and headed for the door. My departure was motivated entirely by safety concerns. Curiosity played no part in it. Behind me, Mia picked up her phone, hesitated, and slipped it into her pocket without checking the screen. A small but promising sign of trainability. I crossed the hallway toward Ben's room, where cardboard, string, and unchecked optimism had apparently combined into something large enough to collapse. Chapter 5. Ben's Laboratory of Unnecessary Inventions. Cardboard Engineering. Ben's room looked as though a packaging warehouse had collided with a toy shop and both had refused to accept responsibility. Cardboard covered the floor. Cushions had been pushed against the walls, strings stretched between chair legs at several heights, creating a system of traps designed either for cats or careless adults. In the middle of it all stood Ben, holding a roll of tape and wearing the expression of a person who had caused a disaster but still believed it might become impressive. Behind him rose a construction almost as tall as the bed. "Welcome," he said, "to the fully automatic cat adventure park." I remained in the doorway. The structure consisted of 4 large boxes, 3 smaller ones, 2 cardboard tubes, a ramp, a dangling feather, and a bell suspended from a piece of string. One section leaned against the desk. Another appeared to depend entirely on a cushion and optimism. Nothing about it was automatic. Nothing about it was a park. The involvement of a cat had yet to be confirmed. Mia appeared behind me. "Is that what crashed?" "Only part of it." "Which part?" "The safety tunnel." This did not inspire confidence. Ben pointed proudly at the entrance. "Cleo goes in here, then through the tunnel, up the ramp, across the bridge, and into the snack station." At the word snack station, I looked more closely. A small dish stood at the far end of the structure. It contained 3 treats. The boy understood basic project financing. And when she steps there, Ben continued, the bell rings. He pressed a cardboard panel. The bell produced a violent metallic clatter. I stepped backward. It tells us where she is, he explained. Everyone always knew where I was. I was usually occupying the object they needed. Anna arrived carrying a refuse bag. She stopped at the doorway. Ben, it's for Cleo. I can see that. Can we keep all the boxes? Anna looked at the tower, then at the roll of tape, then at the floor, where several strips had attached themselves to a sock. We're supposed to be getting rid of things. I am getting rid of boxes, Ben said. I'm turning them into something else. This was a strong argument. Anna recognized it and disliked it. Daniel leaned over her shoulder. That bridge needs more support. It was fine until the safety tunnel fell. I've got brackets. No brackets, Anna said. Daniel looked wounded. I meant cardboard brackets. You did not. Ben crouched beside me. Try it, Cleo. I did not move. He tapped the entrance. I looked away. He rolled a ball into the first tunnel. The ball traveled perhaps 20 centimeters before becoming trapped against a fold in the cardboard. It usually goes farther, he said. There had clearly been extensive testing without the principal user. Beside the adventure park sat a small empty box, barely large enough to contain me. It had clean edges, a faint smell of paper, and no bell. I stepped into it. Ben's shoulders fell. But that's not part of it. Precisely. I turned around twice and sat down, the sides pressed against my fur in a highly satisfactory manner. Humans believe comfort requires space. This is why they buy enormous sofas and then sit pressed together at one end, while the rest is occupied by cushions. A good box does not offer space, it offers certainty. Mia smiled. She likes the packaging better. The whole thing is packaging, Ben said. This was also a strong argument. He picked up the little box and placed it inside the entrance to the adventure park. I stepped out immediately. You can't trick her, Mia said. I'm not tricking her, I'm integrating her preferences. Ben was becoming dangerously similar to Daniel. I walked past him and sat on the roll of tape. Maybe she needs a demonstration, Daniel said. No cat has ever benefited from a human demonstration. Daniel reached into the structure and guided the ball through the first box. He pushed it up the ramp, across the bridge, and toward the snack station. Halfway there, his elbow caught a string. The bell rang. Daniel flinched and struck the roof with his shoulder. The roof lifted, the bridge twisted. One of the supporting boxes folded inward with a long, sorrowful crack. For a breathless moment, the entire adventure park seemed to reconsider its future. Then it collapsed. Cardboard panels slid over one another. The ramp fell against the bed. A cushion rolled free. The bell struck the floor and continued ringing beneath a roof panel, as though demanding rescue. Daniel remained crouched in the wreckage. I think the load distribution was wrong, he said. You leaned on it, Anna replied. That altered the load distribution. Ben did not laugh. He stared at the remains of his invention, still holding a loose strip of tape. The pride had disappeared from his face. It was better before, he said quietly. Human projects often begin with imagination and end with an adult explaining physics too late. Anna touched his shoulder. We can rebuild it. It won't be the same. No, Daniel said, emerging from beneath a cardboard wall. We can make it stronger. Ben looked unconvinced. I walked through the wreckage. Without its unnecessary towers and unreliable bridge, the structure had improved considerably. 2 crushed boxes now formed a low chamber beneath the desk. The fallen ramp created a sloping roof, and one cushion had landed neatly against the back wall. The opening was narrow. The interior was dark. It smelled of cardboard, dust, and Ben's hands. Excellent. I entered. Cleo? Ben called. I continued to the rear of the chamber and pressed myself against the cushion. It was quiet there. The collapsed walls softened the sounds of the room, while a small gap offered a clear view of everyone's ankles. A retreat should provide concealment, warmth, and the ability to attack passing shoelaces. Ben bent down and looked through the entrance. Our eyes met. For reasons of professional pride, I left immediately. "She went inside," he said. "She came straight back out," Mia replied, "but she went in." Ben's face brightened with such honest relief that it became necessary to inspect the far corner of the room. The family began clearing the wreckage. Anna removed loose tape. Daniel reinforced the surviving tunnel with folded cardboard rather than brackets, under supervision. Mia tied the bell higher, so it would ring only when struck deliberately. Ben left the small chamber beneath the desk untouched. Later, when no one was watching, I returned. The cushion fitted my side. The roof was low enough to feel secure. A narrow window had been cut into one wall, allowing a stripe of sunlight to fall across my paws. It was not a fully automatic cat adventure park. It was something better. It was a place made for me. I had nearly fallen asleep when Ben came back into the room. He stopped at the entrance to the chamber. He did not shout. He did not call the others. He simply lowered himself to the floor and smiled. "You do like it," he whispered. I closed my eyes. No conclusion could be drawn from this. I was conducting a structural endurance test. Ben sat beside the opening without touching me. After a moment, he placed one treat just inside and went back to work. The boy possessed unusual restraint for a human. From somewhere beyond the room came the rush of running water. Pipes trembled in the wall, followed by Daniel's voice. "Why is it doing that?" Anna answered. "Because you turned it the wrong way." "I haven't turned anything yet." "That's worse." Ben sprang up and ran toward the bathroom. I ate the treat, left the chamber, and followed him. Someone had released water inside the house on purpose. Clearly, my work was not finished. Chapter 6. The Bathroom, the Chamber of Voluntary Rain. The bathroom was the only room in the house where water was invited indoors and then blamed for being everywhere. Humans had built an entire chamber for this purpose. Its surfaces were hard, cold, and designed to become slippery. Towels hung from rails in preparation for emergencies that occurred several times a day. Bottles stood around the bath, containing liquids for washing different regions of the same body. Cats require one tongue. Efficiency is a gift some species receive at birth. When I entered, Daniel was leaning over the basin, while a drop of water formed at the end of the tap. It grew slowly, trembling beneath the metal. Then it fell. Plink. Daniel frowned. Another drop gathered. Plink. "There," Anna said from the doorway. "That's the noise. I know what dripping sounds like." "You said it was the pipes." "It could still involve a pipe." Most household problems eventually involve Daniel lying on the floor and defending an early theory. He turned the tap sharply. The dripping stopped. For 2 seconds. Plink. Daniel narrowed his eyes at it. Interesting. It was not interesting. Water was escaping at regular intervals from a device intended to prevent exactly that. But humans often describe a problem as interesting when they do not yet know how to solve it. Ben crouched beside the bath and watched. "Can I help?" "Absolutely," Anna inhaled. Daniel added, "by standing back." Ben stood back approximately half a paw's length. Before the repair could begin, the shower started behind me. I spun around. Mia stood inside the glass enclosure, one hand beneath the stream, while she waited for it to become the correct temperature. Steam rose around her. Water struck the floor with the sound of concentrated rainfall. People complain when rain falls outdoors without consulting their plans. Then they enter bathrooms and manufacture it at personal expense. Mia noticed me watching through the glass. "What?" I stared at her. She stared back. "I'm taking a shower." She said this as though naming the ritual made it reasonable. Moments later, she stepped beneath the stream and became completely wet. This was apparently intentional. She applied scented foam to her hair. rinsed it away, and repeated the process with a second substance that smelled almost identical, but came from a different bottle. When she finally emerged, she seized a towel and began drying herself with frantic movements. The entire sequence confirmed my theory. Human grooming is a problem humans create in order to solve. Mia wrapped another towel around her head. I had never seen her look less capable of defending territory. "Don't judge me," she said. I turned toward the basin. There was no need to continue once the verdict was obvious. Anna had opened a cabinet and taken out my brush. I recognized it immediately. It had soft metal teeth, a comfortable handle, and one acceptable purpose: the careful maintenance of my shoulders, cheeks, and upper back by trained personnel. "Since you're here," Anna said, an ominous phrase. Humans use it when they intend to transform your presence into an obligation. She sat on the closed toilet lid and patted her knee. I approached with measured dignity. Proper grooming is not submission. Monarchs have always employed attendants. Anna drew the brush along my back. I lifted my chin. Again, I arched slightly into the movement. "There's my beautiful girl," she murmured. Accuracy should be encouraged. The brush passed over my shoulders, removing loose fur with satisfying precision. Anna showed the collected hair to Daniel. "We could make another cat." Daniel glanced beneath the basin. "Please don't. One supervisor is enough." Anna continued along my side. "Acceptable. Excellent." Then she touched my stomach. The session ended. I turned, caught the brush between both front paws, and kicked it away with my hind legs. "Cleo!" I sprang to the floor and sat beyond her reach. Anna examined the faint red line on her wrist. "You were enjoying that." I had been enjoying the approved portion. Consent is not a lifelong contract. Mia, still wearing the towel on her head, smiled. "She has boundaries." "She has weapons," Daniel said. "Both can be useful." Daniel placed a toolbox beside the basin and arranged several tools on a towel. He positioned them carefully, according to size, then selected none of them. Instead, he propped his phone against a bottle and started an instructional video. A cheerful man appeared on the screen. "Fixing a dripping tap is easier than you think." Daniel paused the video. "I told you." "You haven't fixed it yet," Anna said. "I'm establishing that it's easy." He resumed the instructions. The cheerful man displayed a tap that was cleaner, newer, and apparently unrelated to ours. "First, turn off the water supply." Daniel paused again. "Right." Anna folded her arms. "Were you not going to do that?" "I was about to." He opened the cabinet beneath the basin and lowered himself to the floor. His shoulders disappeared inside, while his legs remained in the bathroom. "Which valve is it?" Ben asked. "The small one." "They're both small." "The smaller small one." Ben reached toward a pipe. "Don't touch anything," Anna and Daniel said together. For once, the family had achieved perfect coordination. Daniel twisted something beneath the basin. The tap released a thin stream. "That's more water," Anna observed. "It's residual pressure." The stream strengthened. "Daniel, I can see it." He twisted in the opposite direction. The stream became a spray, striking the side of the basin and scattering bright droplets across the mirror. Mia raised her phone. "Are you filming this?" Anna asked. "Only for family records." "Stop." The distinction did little to comfort anyone. Daniel reached farther beneath the basin. A metal object struck the floor. "Ben, pass me the adjustable wrench." Ben studied the tools and handed him a screwdriver. "This is a screwdriver." "You said the saver one. They're all silver." He had a point. Anna selected the wrench and placed it in Daniel's waiting hand. "Turn it clockwise." "I know. You're turning it anti-clockwise." "I'm underneath it. Directions are reversed." "Directions do not reverse because you're lying down." Marriages appear to survive many things. Home repair is the most demanding. While they debated the nature of direction, I jumped onto the basin. The water continued to run in a narrow, sparkling thread. I studied it from the left. It struck the porcelain and vanished into the drain. From the right, however, the stream curved away from the metal. just enough to permit access. I lowered my head. The first attempt wet my nose. I withdrew and recalculated. A scientific failure is merely information delivered rudely. On the second attempt, I placed one paw near the drain, tilted my head, and caught the stream with my tongue. Cold. At last, the bathroom revealed a sensible function. "Cleo's drinking from it," Ben announced. "Not now, Cleo," Daniel said from inside the cabinet. I continued. Anna handed Daniel another tool. Ben rang the adventure park bell he had somehow brought with him. Mia filmed from beside the bath. The towel on her head began to unravel. Daniel struck his elbow against a pipe and addressed it with language usually reserved for the printer. Then, the tap burst into full flow. Water splashed across my face. I leaped backward onto the windowsill, knocking over a bottle. Ben shouted, "Again!" Anna grabbed a towel, and Daniel called from beneath the basin, "Nobody panic." No one had been panicking until he suggested it. He twisted the valve one final time. The stream stopped. The room fell silent. Daniel slid out, damp-haired and triumphant. There, plink. A single drop fell from the tap. Everyone stared at it. Daniel picked up the wrench again. I turned away. Some experiments require years of observation. The bathroom window stood open above me, letting the steam escape. Cool air moved through my fur, carrying the smells of wet earth, cut grass, distant cooking, and dog. A familiar, excessively enthusiastic dog. I lifted my head. From the garden below came a hopeful bark. Then Bruno's face appeared beyond the balcony rail, gazing upward with the unrestrained delight of someone who had just discovered that the world still contained me. I stepped through the open doorway toward the balcony. Behind me, Daniel said, "I think I've got it this time." The tap began to drip faster. I left the humans to their rain chamber. There are limits to how much supervision even excellent management can provide. Chapter 7. The Balcony. The Undignified Diplomat. A balcony is not merely an outdoor platform. It is a watchtower, a solar facility, and a border station from which one may monitor birds, neighbors, weather, and the gradual decline of local standards. Ours overlooked the garden. From the warm stone ledge, I could inspect the fence, the apple tree, the neighboring roofs, and the narrow path used by delivery people who approached the house carrying boxes they mistakenly believed belonged to the humans. The afternoon sun had warmed the tiles to an excellent temperature. I stepped into the brightest patch and paused. Territorial security is important, so is lying down. Below, Bruno stood in the neighboring garden with his front paws against the fence. His tail moved so violently that the rest of him swayed. "Cleo!" he barked. I looked behind me in case another Cleo had arrived. "You're outside." "I am on a balcony." "That's outside." "It is elevated outside." The distinction is significant. Bruno accepted this with his usual enthusiasm. Bruno accepted nearly everything with enthusiasm. Rain, sticks, visitors, empty flower pots, each seemed to him proof that existence had been arranged for his personal delight. "I went for a walk," he announced. "You go for a walk every day." "I know." His happiness increased, although no new information had been introduced. I sat near the railing and surveyed the garden. 2 sparrows argued in the hedge. A pigeon occupied the roof of the shed with the heavy confidence of a badly parked vehicle. Farther away, a blackbird searched the lawn for something edible. Bruno watched me watching them. "Are you hunting?" "I am conducting ornithological surveillance." "Is that like chasing birds?" "No." "Do you want me to chase them?" "Absolutely not." Bruno lowered himself reluctantly. His tail continued striking the fence. Dogs have a complicated relationship with stillness. They treat it as a temporary failure of movement. "What did you do on your walk?" I asked, largely to prevent him from assisting. "We went to the park. I found a stick." There are many sticks in parks. This one was excellent. "What made it excellent?" Bruno considered the question. It was a stick. His reasoning was difficult to challenge because it contained no unnecessary parts. And then Paul threw it. He took your excellent stick and threw it away? Yes. And you tolerated this? I brought it back. Why? So he could throw it again. I stared at him. Humans had somehow persuaded dogs to retrieve objects they themselves had discarded. Then convinced the dogs that praise was sufficient payment. It was one of the most successful labor arrangements in history. How many times? I asked. 11, maybe 12. One time I ran in the wrong direction, but there was a puddle. You understand that Paul could simply have kept the stick? But then I couldn't bring it back. I began the difficult task of explaining self-respect. If someone throws away an object you have selected, the dignified response is to remain where you are and allow them to regret their decision. But running is fun. That is not the point. And bringing things back is fun. You are making this unnecessarily difficult. Bruno's tongue hung from the side of his mouth. He looked entirely untroubled by the collapse of his dignity. Paul said I was a good boy every time. That is emotional manipulation. I like being a good boy. There it was, open joy expressed without caution, negotiation, or any attempt to appear superior to it. I found the display disturbing. A gust of wind crossed the garden, stirring the leaves and carrying a faint scent of dust from the roof. I raised my nose. Somewhere above the upper floor, something shifted. Then Bruno barked sharply. Behind you! I turned. A young pigeon descended toward the balcony rail, wings spread, apparently intending to land less than a tail's length from me. I lowered myself at once. The pigeon saw me. Its wings beat wildly. It changed direction in a storm of gray feathers and offended noises, passed over the railing, and escaped toward the neighboring chimney. I remained crouched for one moment before rising with deliberate calm. Bruno bounced against the fence. I warned you. I was aware of the situation. It was right behind you. I had positioned myself to test your response time. Bruno blinked. Did I pass? I looked toward the chimney, where the pigeon had landed and was attempting to recover its composure. Marginally. His whole body brightened. I passed. It was impossible to offer Bruno limited approval. He turned every crumb into a feast. You're welcome, he said. I did not thank you. That's all right. This was even more irritating than if he had demanded recognition. I sat again, this time angled so that I could see both the garden and the roofline. Bruno settled on the grass below. For several minutes, neither of us spoke. He watched a drifting leaf as if it were performing specifically for him. I allowed the sun to warm my back. Perhaps joy did not always require restraint. Perhaps dignity could survive visible happiness. This theory was incomplete and would require extensive private research. Cleo? Bruno called. What? A ball! He ran across the garden after a yellow ball Paul had thrown from somewhere beyond the hedge. Bruno returned at full speed, ears flying, tail high, carrying the ball as though he had recovered a priceless family treasure. Good boy, Paul called. Bruno glowed. I looked away before anyone could mistake my expression for amusement. Then the scratching came again. Scrape, scrape, scrape. My ears turned toward the house. The sound was louder now, passing above the balcony door and into the ceiling over the hallway. I left the warm tiles and stepped inside. Behind me, Bruno dropped the ball. Are you going? Official business. Will you come back? I paused. If the border requires inspection. I hope it does. Of course he did. I followed the sound through the bathroom and into the hall. It moved once more above me, then stopped directly overhead. At the far end of the corridor stood a narrow white door I had never seen open. A folding ladder rested beside it. Dust lined the upper frame, and the air beneath it carried the faint smell of wood, paper, and forgotten places. The attic door. I approached and placed one paw against it. Closed. A personal provocation. Above me something scratched again. Chapter 8. The Forbidden Door. 3 meters into the unknown. Closed doors are not architectural features. They are declarations of mistrust. A door says that something exists on the other side, and that, for reasons never adequately explained, I am not currently permitted to inspect it. Humans call this privacy. I call it concealing evidence. I pressed my paw against the attic door again. It remained closed. Above me came one final scrape, followed by silence. Anna, Daniel called from the bathroom. Do we still have the plumber's number? Anna appeared at the top of the stairs holding her clipboard. A strand of hair had escaped across her face, and one of her labels was attached to her sleeve. What happened? Nothing happened. I'm asking hypothetically. The tap began dripping at a speed that made the question less hypothetical. Anna noticed me beside the attic door. No, she said. I looked at her. We are not doing the attic today. Daniel came into the hallway, wiping his hands on a towel. Agreed. I looked at him too. It's already 3 o'clock, Anna continued. We still have the bedrooms, the hall cupboard, and whatever Ben has built under his desk. It's structurally sound now, Ben called. A bell rang in his room. Then something fell over. Anna closed her eyes. The attic door stood directly behind her, silent and smug. I scratched once along its lower edge. Cleo thinks we should open it, Ben said, arriving at once. Cleo also thinks 4 in the morning is a reasonable time for breakfast, Anna replied. Finally, someone was beginning to understand my position. Mia emerged from her room. What if there really is something up there? There isn't, Daniel said. You said that about the dripping tap. The tap is not alive. It's winning, though. Daniel ignored this. Ben placed both hands on the attic door. There could be treasure. There could be spiders, Mia said. She moved one step backward. Humans respond to unknown territory according to temperament. Ben expects treasure. Mia expects creatures with too many legs. Daniel expects a repair requiring tools he is pleased to own. Anna expects another task. A cat expects the truth. I scratched the door again. Anna sighed. Fine, we'll look. We are not sorting anything. We are not starting another project. We are opening the door, checking the noise, and coming straight back down. This was how humans entered every major undertaking, by announcing that it would take 5 minutes. Daniel unfolded the ladder. It extended into the hallway with a series of metallic cracks, blocking 2 doors and nearly striking the ceiling light. He adjusted one leg, frowned, adjusted the other, and stepped back. That should be stable. Anna gripped the side and shook it. The ladder moved. Daniel frowned more deeply. The floor's uneven. The floor is not uneven. Then, fix it at a visible level. He folded a piece of cardboard and placed it beneath 1 foot. Anna tested the ladder again. Ben arrived wearing a bicycle helmet. What is that for? Mia asked. Falling objects. What falling objects? We don't know yet. Mia pulled the hood of her sweatshirt over her head. Daniel brought a flashlight, a second flashlight, a box of batteries, gloves, and a screwdriver. You're walking 3 meters, Anna said. Preparedness saves time. He spent the next 2 minutes searching for the batteries he had just placed on the windowsill. Humans cannot cross a hallway without establishing a base camp. At last, Daniel climbed 2 steps and opened the upper latch. The narrow door resisted. Stuck, he said. Push harder, Ben advised. Daniel pushed. Dust fell from the frame onto his hair. Mia made a sound of disgust. I warned you about dust, Anna said. That wasn't a warning. You said it'll be dusty. Yes, that is the traditional form of a warning. Daniel pushed again. The door opened with a long wooden groan. Air slicked into the hallway. It smelled of dry timber, old paper, fabric, dust, and years that had been folded away instead of discarded. Beneath those scents lay something colder. Outside air entering through a gap somewhere in the darkness. And another smell. Not mouse, not bird, not anything clearly alive, but unfamiliar. I placed one paw on the first ladder step. No, Cleo, Anna said. I climbed to the second. Daniel, get her. Daniel reached down. I moved beyond his hand. The ladder narrowed beneath my paws, but tats do not fear height. We fear unstable surfaces constructed by humans who claim microscopic problems with floors. At the top, I paused. A dark opening waited beyond the frame. Daniel raised the flashlight, and a pale beam moved across sloping wooden rafters, rough floorboards, and ranks of cardboard boxes. Dust floated through the light. Ben peered upward from below. "Can you see treasure?" "I can see insulation," Daniel said. "Is it valuable?" "Only when winter arrives." I stepped into the attic. The boards were cool beneath my paws. Shadows gathered between stacked chairs, rolled carpets, old suitcases, and objects hidden beneath white sheets. The roof descended sharply on both sides, creating low passages no adult human could enter with dignity. In other words, the space had been designed for me. "Cleo, come back," Anna called. I continued forward. Behind me, Daniel climbed through the opening and immediately struck his head on a beam. "Ow! Helmet," Ben reminded him. The humans followed with the caution of a species that had brought too many me's into a low room. Anna tested each board before trusting it. Mia swept her flashlight ahead as though spiders might surrender if properly illuminated. Ben arrived last, still wearing his helmet and carrying a cloth bag for treasure. No one had asked me to wait. Good leadership often means advancing while the committee is still discussing risk. I passed a box marked Christmas, although it contained part of a lamp. Beside it stood another marked Important in Anna's handwriting and Misk in Daniel's. The contradictions seemed to have preserved it for years. "Don't disappear between the boxes," Anna said. I slipped between the boxes. The passage was narrow and dense with forgotten smells: wool, metal, paper. A faint trace of Mia as a small child. Ben's old blankets. Daniel's aftershave trapped in the collar of a coat he no longer wore. The attic was not empty. It was full of earlier versions of the family. My whiskers brushed a cardboard edge. Ahead, the roof darkened where the flashlight could not reach. I stopped and listened. The humans were arguing quietly about whether an exercise bicycle counted as a meaningful possession if no one had used it since Ben learned to walk. Then came the sound. Scrape. Close now. I lowered my body. Scrape, scrape. Something moved behind a row of old cartons near the far beam. Dust shifted across the floorboards. A shadow trembled in the narrow gap. "Cleo," Anna called. I did not answer. The boxes moved again. Chapter 9. The Archive of Human Unreason. Things feelings refuse to throw away. Every attic contains a monster. Sometimes it has claws. Sometimes it has wings. In human houses, it is usually the belief that an object may become useful again. I moved toward the trembling shadow. Behind me, the family fell quiet. Daniel raised his flashlight. Its beam reached across the floorboards, passed over 3 boxes, and stopped on a striped bag containing tennis rackets no one had used within my lifetime. Scrape. A box shifted. Ben whispered, "It's alive." "It's probably nothing," Daniel said, in the tone humans use when they would greatly prefer nothing. Mia remained near the opening. "If a spider comes toward me, I'm moving out." "A spider cannot have the house," Anna said. "It can have the attic." I slipped behind the first row of cartons. Dust clung to my paws. The narrow space opened into a disorderly kingdom of abandoned intentions. A folded exercise bicycle, 2 lamps without shades, a shade without a lamp, and a machine Daniel had once bought to make bread. "It still works," he said, when Anna's light found it. "You used it twice." The second loaf was nearly edible. Anna pointed to a box marked Important. "What's in that?" Daniel opened it. Inside were extension cables, a broken clock, 4 instruction manuals, and a remote control belonging to no device currently known to the household. "Useful things," he said. "For what?" Daniel picked up the remote. "We'll know when we find what this belongs to." This is how objects become immortal. Humans do not throw things away when they lose their purpose. They place them in boxes, write Important on the side, and transfer responsibility to their future selves. Anna opened another carton. Christmas decorations stared back at us, although the label said summer clothes. A wooden reindeer had lost one antler. Several silver stars were tangled in lights. Daniel lifted the cable and immediately tightened 3 knots. "Don't pull it," Anna said. "I'm loosening it. You're making it worse. It has to get worse before it gets better." This principle appeared to govern the entire weekend. Ben had already begun exploring. "Look!" He held up a tiny blue shirt. Anna smiled. "That was yours." "It would never fit me." "That is generally how growing works," Mia said. Ben placed the shirt against his chest. It covered approximately 1/3 of him. He looked suspiciously at the garment, as though it had shrunk out of spite. Beside it lay a yellow baby blanket with faded moons along the edge. Anna unfolded it carefully. "You wouldn't sleep without this," she told him. "I sleep without it now." "We've noticed," Daniel said. "You also sleep sideways." Ben touched one of the moons. "Can I keep it?" Anna glanced at the boxes surrounding us. That was the problem we came up here to solve. A second box held Mia's first drawings. Most featured people with enormous heads and fingers radiating from their arms. "That's Dad," Mia said, pointing to a green figure. "Why am I green?" "You were wearing a green shirt." "I'm entirely green. I was 4. Accuracy developed later." Daniel examined the picture. "I look cheerful. You have 12 teeth." "I was very cheerful." Mia laughed and took a photograph. This time, she did not adjust the lighting or move anything out of view. The dust, the box, and Daniel's green paper face remained exactly as they were. Anna found an envelope of old photographs beneath the drawings. Soon, the cleaning operation stopped entirely. Humans are remarkably vulnerable to photographs. Show them a small piece of paper containing younger versions of themselves, and they will sit in dust for half an hour discussing haircuts no one can defend. Daniel had once possessed more hair and less caution. Anna wore a red coat and laughed at something outside the frame. In another photograph, Mia slept on Daniel's chest while he slept beneath her. Ben appeared inside a kitchen cupboard wearing a saucepan as a helmet, suggesting that his protective instincts had begun early. Then Anna found a picture of me. I was smaller, though not less impressive, sitting inside my old transport box with my ears flattened and my eyes expressing a clear intention to pursue legal action. "Oh, look at Cleo," Mia said. "She was tiny." "I was proportionate." "You were so nervous," Anna said softly. I inspected the photograph. I had not been nervous. I had been placed inside a plastic container, carried into unfamiliar territory, and surrounded by people using high voices. My response had been a measured security assessment. Daniel pulled the old transport box from beneath a coat rack. Its metal door hung open. "Remember how she wouldn't come out? I remember all of you staring at me." Then she climbed onto Anna's lap, Mia said. "That was temporary tactical positioning." Anna reached into the box and removed a faded gray blanket, my blanket. Its scent had nearly disappeared beneath dust and years. But a trace remained. The first room, Anna's hands, Mia's excited whisper, Ben crawling toward me, before he understood personal boundaries. I had needed that blanket during my first night in the house. Not from uncertainty. I had been testing the fabric. Anna shook off the dust and laid it across a carton. I stepped onto it before anyone could form an opinion. The cloth was thinner than I remembered. I turned once and lay down. No one spoke for a moment. Then Ben smiled. I closed my eyes to discourage interpretation. Scrape. My head rose. The sound came from directly behind the far beam. I left the blanket and advanced. Daniel followed, crouching beneath the roof. Wind sighed outside. A small metal grill set into the sloping wall lifted at one corner. It fell back against the wood. Scrape. Daniel stared at it. "The vent cover," he said. No mouse, no intruder, no supernatural creature, merely a loose ventilation grill being moved by the wind. I had identified a serious structural hazard. Daniel reached for his screwdriver. "You brought the right tool?" Anna asked. He looked almost emotional. I knew preparedness would pay off. He tightened 2 screws while I supervised at close range. The grill settled firmly into place. Another gust passed over the roof. Nothing moved. The attic became still. There, Daniel said. Solved. Solved because I had located it. The humans began selecting what would return downstairs. Ben kept his blanket. Mia chose the drawings. Anna took the photographs. Daniel carried the unidentified remote control, claiming the investigation remained open. Humans preserve objects because feelings have no cupboards of their own. They place memory into fabric, paper, broken lamps, and tiny shirts, then store it beneath a roof until one Saturday afternoon brings it back. A deeply inefficient system. I curled tighter on the blanket. Below us, the upper floor waited, clearer, quieter, and almost orderly. Soon the family would carry these chosen pieces down and decide where they belonged. I already knew where one of them would go. Chapter 10. Order is when everyone knows their place. The final inspection. By Sunday evening, the upper floor had become suspiciously visible. The hallway contained a floor. Mia's room contained a path wide enough to cross without stepping on clothing. The office desks had been reduced from 7 piles of paper to 3, which Anna described as progress, and Daniel described as an efficient filing system. Herbert stood in his charging station, silent and defeated. The bathroom tap no longer dripped. A plumber had accomplished in 12 minutes what Daniel had approached as a personal struggle against the laws of water. I had already loosened it for him, Daniel said. No one responded. Ben's adventure park had been rebuilt beneath his desk. The bridge was lower, the tunnel wider, and the bell had been moved to a position where it rang only when I chose to strike it. This represented a significant improvement in both engineering and government. Even the attic was secure. The ventilation grill no longer scraped in the wind. Selected memories had been carried downstairs, and the remaining boxes stood in labeled rows. Anna had created categories. Daniel had added a 5th, review later. Anna had crossed it out. Daniel had written it back. Perfect order had not been achieved. A box of donations remained in the hallway because no one wanted to carry it downstairs. Daniel's tools still lay on a towel in the bathroom. One of Mia's sweaters had returned to the floor within 40 minutes. A strip of tape was attached to Ben's sock, and my fur covered every room with the quiet consistency of a royal seal. The house was not orderly, it was recognizable. The family sat on the hallway floor among the results of their efforts. Anna leaned against the wall with her clipboard beside her, though she no longer appeared interested in it. Daniel stretched out his legs and examined a small screw in his palm. "Where did that come from?" Anna asked. "No idea." "Is it important?" Daniel considered it. "Probably." He placed it in his pocket. Thus began the next attic box. Mia sat cross-legged beside him, looking through the old photographs. She had not posted any of them. She simply passed them around, occasionally laughing or asking a question whose answer led to another story. Ben wore his baby blanket over his shoulders like a cape. "I'm keeping this forever," he announced. "You said that about the cardboard tube," Anna replied. "I'm keeping that too." Anna looked toward the ceiling, perhaps appealing to a higher organizational authority. I was already present. For once, none of the humans held a screen. No machine hummed. No list was being completed. They had spent 2 days trying to create more space, only to gather together in the narrowest part of the upper floor. Humans frequently overlook the purpose of their own work until they are too tired to continue it. Ben disappeared into his room and returned carrying the small box I had chosen the day before. He placed it in the center of the group. "For Cleo," he said. The box was plainly inadequate. Its corners were bent, one side bore a shipping label, and it was slightly too small. Nearly perfect. I approached it slowly. Everyone watched. This was unacceptable. A cat cannot make an important decision under public observation. It creates the appearance that the audience has influenced the outcome. I walked past the box. Ben's expression fell. Then I circled Anna, stepped over Daniel's ankle, inspected the donation box, and returned from the opposite direction. This established that my choice was independent and based on comprehensive comparison. I placed one paw inside. The cardboard gave a soft crackle. Then the second paw. I turned around with some difficulty, pressed my back against one side, and folded myself into the available space. My front paws protruded over the edge. Ben smiled. She fits. I do not fit. The box has adapted. Mia lifted her phone. I looked at her. She paused, then lowered it again. Some things don't need a picture, she said. A remarkable statement from someone who possessed more than 800 photographs of me, including several in which only my tail was visible. I closed my eyes in approval. Anna reached out and stroked my head. I permitted it. Her hand smelled faintly of dust, soap, and the labels she had spent all weekend attaching to objects. We actually did it, she said. Mostly, Daniel replied. Don't say mostly. There's still the hall cupboard. Anna turned her head toward him. Daniel raised both hands. Next year. The family laughed. Above us, the attic remained silent. No scratching, no hidden creature, no threat. Only old things resting beneath the roof, waiting patiently for the next time the humans needed to remember who they had been. The upper floor had now been inspected, secured, and declared provisionally habitable. Daniel's office still contained unnecessary cables. Mia would place another shirt on the floor before bedtime. Ben's cardboard park would not survive the month. Anna would make a new list in the morning, and Herbert would eventually return to challenge the skirting board. None of this troubled me. Order, I had discovered, was not the absence of misplaced objects. Humans would never achieve that, and it would be cruel to expect it. Order was knowing which footsteps belonged on the stairs. It was recognizing Daniel's voice when a machine betrayed him. Anna's sigh when her plans grew too heavy. Mia's silence when she needed company, and Ben's careful hands placing a treat just inside a cardboard shelter. It was Bruno barking from the garden, as though every meeting were a celebration. It was the smell of an old blanket and the certainty that no matter how many rooms a house contained, someone would always leave a place for you. Naturally, I would never explain this to the family. Emotional insight, like food, loses value when distributed too freely. Anna's fingers moved beneath my chin. I began to purr. The sound filled the quiet hallway. Ben leaned against Anna. Mia rested her head on Daniel's shoulder. No one appeared eager to move, so I remained in the box and allowed them to remain around me. The upper floor was mine now. Not because I had conquered it, though clearly I had, because I knew every room, every noise, every weakness, and every person who belonged there. I closed my eyes. Someone had to be rested in case the humans had another idea tomorrow.